avoid any kind of disturbances. And if you wish to speak, kindly unmute and then speak. Also, one feedback that we got from the last webinar was all of us who have joined, if we can turn our cameras on, it would be wonderful for the speakers to have an interactive, this session, so that it doesn't look like they're talking to machine and instead they're talking to real people. So if people could put on their cameras, it would be wonderful. So thank you so much, guys. So once again, a very good afternoon to all of you. Let me just begin this webinar by welcoming all of you who have joined for this webinar called We Are One Among You. I welcome all of us joining this for the first time, and to the people who were there for the last webinar have also taken the risk of joining again today. Hats off and welcome. I also welcome all those watching this live stream on Facebook. My name is Alan Anthony. For people who don't know me, and I work in the HR domain in a private organization based out of Jaipur. I belong to Jaipur, Rajasthan, and have been here since morning, working from home basically. So that's in nutshell about me. Let me now take this opportunity to first welcome our chief guest for the session today, Dr. Akai Padmashali, who is the keynote speaker and will be delivering the keynote address. She's a renowned transgender rights activist and a recent politician. And we will all get to know why I called her a recent politician when she starts speaking. Hearty welcome, Akai. Hearty welcome to you.
Thanks,
So
Alan.
I also welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Karan Big, fashion designer and LGBTQ rights activist. Welcome, Karan. Welcome.
Thank you.
I wholeheartedly welcome all of you once again. So without much ado, let me now move on to the purpose of this particular webinar. So now, as you all know, that all of us are going through this uncertain time. So now these unprecedented times, I feel that it requires unprecedented thinking, whether big or small, to make such impact. So during this lockdown and while working from home, I realized that we have become isolated in our own ways and we have literally become socially distant. But if you start thinking otherwise, you will also see the ongoing pandemic in this time. Many of us have realized that our own talents, which were hidden till now, children coming up with various creative things, various handicrafts, and then cooking and likewise. So there are multiple aspects of it. So keeping this in mind, what I thought was why not create a platform where talent from the country could discuss and deliberate on various social issues. So one such webinar was organized last week, and here we are with the second webinar. So today's central theme is social inclusion and equality. It is one such major issue in front of us, and this has become more relevant day by day as we all know what is happening around us in the country. So I feel that today's session and people who have come here to talk are the apt to deliberate on this issue. So now we move on to the next segment of this webinar where I will be introducing our chief guest to all of you and request her to deliver the keynote address. Now she is Dr. Akai Padmashali, a well-known transgender rights activist who hails from Bengaluru, Karnataka. Akai is a male to female trans woman. Her journey is one of courage and determination. From begging on the streets to participating in sex work for 2 square meals a day to founding an organization named Ondede working in the interest of child, women, and sexual minorities. She has come a long way, and now, very recently, she has given up herself into the active politics by joining the Karnataka unit of the Indian National Congress Party. Akai has many laurels and awards to her name, one of them is the prestigious Change Maker of the Year award given to her by the former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, just last year in 2019 for her for her fight against Section 377 IPC as a petitioner. She was also awarded Karnataka Rajyotsava Award, the second highest civilian honor presented by the state government for her work in the social sector. In November 2017, when former US President Barack Obama visited India, Akai was the first trans woman to be invited to be part of the town hall. And she made the world look at her when she asked the president, "Are we criminals?" She is the first transgender person in the country who got driving license stating her gender as female. She was invited by the former President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, to attend the swearing in ceremony of the then Chief Justice of India. She is now married to Mr. Vasu and is the first transgender person in Karnataka to register their marriage in the state. We are really, really honored and humbled by your presence, Akai. And may I now request you to please take over and deliver the keynote address. Over to you, Akai.
Thank you, Alan. Hi, Karan. Pleasant meeting all of you here. And apart from this, my friends who are also being part of this webinar, I think the objective talking about the whole issues of social inclusivity and what is the opposite word for it. It's called the social exclusion. And just recently lost our sisters. I think more than 4 to 5 people in a very very close time. And today was the ritual I was part of it. Though I committed to Alan that I shall be taking part, I am here. There is some disturbance here. I'm in a very village remote area, trying to figure out my network and like other stuffs. Thanks to my Wondera team for scheduling this, and thank you so much. I don't want to be so official, so formal to be as a keynote, as a speaker. No, I just want to be a common human being. I think it's all about the struggle that we were going through as a community because of your sexual orientation, because of your gender identity, because of your class, because of your caste, and because of your, various aspect of sexuality and the politics of gender identity. I only need to share these two things, very important thing. When Alan was mentioning that I spoke to Mr. President, that's Obama, I strongly brought up this issue before Mr. President was only very simple. As a movement, as a community, we did not have a space to talk about this issue at the top political level. Finally, we got the invitation to raise up this issue, and I did it. I think the whole society was so cautious to see what exactly is this. We were trying to meet the governments. Government did not give us time to meet, and they were so like reluctant towards your issues, and were not able to making time to meet. After meeting Mr. President Obama, very immediately after the program, you are receiving so many phone calls saying that the government authorities wants to meet you, and I said, I'm sorry, there is no time. you know so with all of this, why I'm sharing this, I think almost 25 30 years of struggle, you are being socially stigmatized, socially discriminated, socially excluded, you know and all forms of violence, be it from your police to your domestic, to your friends, to your neighbors, to your systems, to your state, and various aspects of it. But how do you fight back is a larger question. One side, yes, there is a community. Second side, there is a lot of mobilization that needs to be done. Third thing, yes, there is a definite need to, like leaders to come and speak in against the rage that's happening in the nation. Third thing is definitely how do you, raise your voice against all sort of atrocities. I think all these years you were as a community, as a movement, fighting against all sorts of exclusion. I think I need to thank the Honorable Supreme Courts for delivering two huge judgments. One is the 2014 NALSA judgment, National Legal Services Authority of India judgment. Number two is the Section 377 verdict. Why I brought this issue before Mr. Obama, how can you imagine, or how can you even still dream, a country like India, which is the largest democracy, we were criminalized. We were decriminalized in 2009. You were made recriminals in 2013. And again you were made no more criminals. So the criminal, decriminal, recriminal, and no more criminal. I think the entire system has played a vital role in stigmatizing the community, and that is affecting, that was affecting people's life. And the assumption of being a transgender woman, I know I was into the street, I was a beggar, I was a sex worker. Knowing the politics of each and every aspect of being in the street, it is so difficult, and it is not so easy that you, okay, we can overcome, we can combat it. It's not that. You are, as a vulnerable community, fighting all sorts of discrimination, and definitely wanting to be there to show and to build your support and solidarity for your existence, for your livelihood, for like equal opportunities. And how do you also talk about the whole issue of the socio, the economical, the political, the cultural, the traditional? That's another side. I think globally, we as the community are being socially excluded. I don't see any one country that is so progressive. I don't see country which is very, very non-discriminatory. I don't say that. There is discrimination. There are discrimination. There are threats to people's life. There are threats, threats to activists who are working on the issue. There's a whole issue of religious morality. There's a class and caste morality. How do you overcome? It's a big question to all of us. I think whatever experience that I come from, I speak that. I'm not a graduate or PhD or 10th standard or second PUC. Passed, I'm a 10th standard, mathematics failed. I think I speak on the basis, on the grounds of my knowledge. I always strongly believe that I should be with people. I think whatever that I learn, I gain knowledge, it's because of common people. It's not about the texts. With this, I also need to, like ensure and emphasize that I recently joined the political party. It's not just you join the party, it was a process of just a month or two or three or four. It was almost 11 years of thought process to join the political party or not. When you were having a series of discussion with my feminist friends, with my well-wishers, supporters, few political leaders, and few professors and various, sector of people and Dalit rights activists, women's rights activists, there is no other alternate, political system in the country which has been totally sold. There is so much of corruption, there is so much of intolerance, there is so much of communal violence, and there is so much of constitutional. There's a threat to the values of the constitution. I think I want to give very specific example that how we lost Gauri Lankesh. Gauri Lankesh is a feminist, is a cis woman who was a journalist who was killed by the right wing forces. I think this is that example I'm just giving. Like that, the country is not in such a stage in tolerance. As a sexual minority community or as a transgender rights activist, I think if I always assume that my issue is the big issue, then you'll be able to show any sort of solidarity with other, minority movements. It is so difficult. It's so difficult for you to even to stand up for issues which are more burning than sexuality and gender. I know. I think these are challenges and these are hurdles and battles need to keep, combating in our daily lives. As Akai, alone I can't do anything. As Bondade, my organization, can't do anything. I need people like you. I request through this webinar, through this meaningful webinar, we need to build a support and solidarity system, and there is a need to converge to fight against all sorts of discrimination and social exclusion. And I strongly feel and say that I think the right time has begun to change the notion of, the so-called developed in the name of development, how the whole society, how the whole, sectors are dominating people's issue. I think it's for me, it's more important about people's issue. I don't want to bother about the capitalists. I don't want to really bother about the fundamentalists. And India as a country, we are so much of inclusive. And as a country, largest democracy, plenty of culture, tradition, practice, belief, and various and customs, many aspects of it. I think we are here to understand and respect, like one another. Any community or any sort of sector or section which is against the issues of sexual minorities, there is my agitation. There is my voice against, all sort of phobia. Doesn't matter you are a, like a minority or a majority or a consensus society. For me, my issue and our issue is more important. I want to say how Nelson Mandela, who fought for himself and for the whole black movement or the black community, and still today there is so much of people who are facing so much of discrimination in the name, in the name of race. I think very indicating in the country as the context, we are facing discrimination on the grounds of caste, class, gender, and sexual orientation. I think the whole motto or the whole vision is to just implement the two Supreme Court verdicts. That's 2014 Nalsa judgment of transgender, the 2018 Supreme Court verdict. And there is so much of need to also implement the state policies, the national, the transgender so-called protection rights bill slash rules slash act, which is anti-people, that needs to be for people. With this, we need to come together to understand the depth and the wide or the vitalness of the spectrum that we are talking about. There is so much of joy in sexuality. There is so much of importance about sexuality. There is so much of, trust on sexuality. I think have a strong hope that the coming generation, our next youth generation, are do you know funds across the globe. That's our issue. How do we stand in favor, in support, and solidarity to support the unspoken issues, especially the sexuality and the gender community issues? And with this, I want to conclude my not the keynote or not the guest speech. I think this is my thought. I wanted to share this. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Karan, and thank you, people who are listening and like watching this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akai. And let me put it on record that even though she is in the midst of a personal tragedy, she was gracious enough to accept this invite, and she was there with us. And that's why you would see her. There's a lot of noise here, there, and then she was not able to join from a proper place. But still, Akai, thank you very much that you have joined and you have spoken. And I think the much necessary thought, food for
Yeah.
thought that you have given us to ponder upon and to think. Because right now there's a lot going on, and as you rightly pointed out, if we consider this right away and move on, and if we think that it is somebody else's problem, then no, definitely not. Things will not work out. We need to consider it as our own problem, our own issue, and address it. Then only probably there is a starting of thought process, and there is some way to
Yeah.
progress. So thank you so much for enlightening
Thank you,
all
Alan.
of us. And
And
this
please
was the
send me the
first.
link. And please send me the link of this program. I love to share with people. I also
Definitely,
want to
definitely,
watch
I
it.
will do that. I will definitely
If
do that.
you give me the permission, I just disconnect from this session, and I'll take further process in my sister's ritual.
Definitely. So, Akai, I would request you to. So now probably I'll introduce Karan, and Karan will also share his thoughts with us. And towards the end, I have some questions. There were a lot of questions which have come up, but since keeping in mind your schedule and also Karan's schedule and the things going on around, I will keep it
So we
short.
can still speak tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure, sure, Akai. No issues. So thank you so much, Akai. Thank you so much for joining us live. And it was
Thank you,
wonderful to hear from you.
Karan. Yeah,
Thank you.
Karan. Sorry, I'm not able to listen, sweetheart.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to speak just a little bit about you. Like I have heard whatever I've heard and read about you. That was really, really powerful. And thank you so much. Just this has really shown us the strength what you have. That you have really come up from a tragedy and then standing against the place where you cannot, but still managing somehow. And that's the audacity which I really respect of you for being that. And that's what you are known for probably. Thank you so much for
Thank
enlightening us
you.
about it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Akai. And definitely I
Thank.
share the link with you. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, people.
Bye.
Hi, Ashmi. Hi, Sarvanan. See you. Bye.
Bye. So, guys, we will move on. As I already told you that Akai is in the midst of a personal tragedy. That's why she couldn't stay on for the entire session. But I hope her thoughts were definitely, very insightful. So let me now introduce our next speaker for the session. This is our very own Karan Vig. Now, why I tell very own and all this, I'll come to that later. But let me just formally introduce him to all of you. Now, Karan Vig is an Indian fashion designer from Jaipur. He is also a stylist, a runway choreographer, feature writer, and a board of director for Rage New Fashion magazine. After completing his graduation in English literature from the University of Westminster, London, his interest in fashion designing blossomed and he got wings under London Fashion Week. Initially, he began his journey as a blogger and then being a model. Now, he has always carried Indian dhoti, silk saris, and jewelry as his patent wear in all the fashion events in which he makes his appearance. I'm sure many of you would be following his page on Instagram, Facebook, and all those social media handles. You'll come to know he has a unique style and he gets noticed for that. Now, his designs are inspired from the Rajwadas and he propagates the use of handlooms in his design collection. Karan is of the opinion that Indian saris not only give a bold style statement to Indian women but also brings in rich heritage and grand poise which no other outfit can bring. He is invited as a guest in many fashion shows nationally and internationally. There are many, I'm not going to take the names because the list is endless. He has delivered a TEDx talk and Changing Tomorrow talk, and also he gives lecture on fashion styling. He has keen interest in discussing feminism, gender equality from an LGBTQ activist perspective. And why I call him very own, because he is from our very own Jaipur city, and he and I share the same college for undergraduation degree, that is St. Xavier. So I was very fortunate enough, Karan, to know you as a friend and get connected to you. Though we have never spoken much, but this forum gives us an opportunity to know you better, and also people who have joined us around from around the country to know you better and speak about your thoughts. So over to you, Karan. I am very excited to hear from you. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Alan, for having me here and giving a very, very elaborate description about me. And yes, it's mutual that we both are fortunate enough to know each other from St. Xavier's as our alma mater, and then going over to abroad and studying my master's in English literature. But I was never much into fashion designing and all. It was just all of a sudden, which really, it's all of a sudden a spark which brings you, because I would say all the people who belong from the LGBTQ community really have something fashionable strike and spark in them, which they really tend to know when they are given a lot of wings. And that wing was given to me under London Fashion Week, as I already mentioned. So, talking about being coming out of society and letting people know about me, that really probably was a big kind of a burden on the shoulder, and it really comes into picture when it has to be acceptable, and that too in the terms when we are talking about the early 2015 and 5 years ago. So it was 5 years ago what I came out, and people got to know about my sexuality a little bit, and then here and there they kind of had a hint about it, probably my college mates, my schoolmates, and all kind of stuff. But when I started using Instagram, I was like really courageous enough, probably I would say, to mention about my sexuality and let people know what I am. But I really maintained it to a level of being a fashion designer itself, and then started working for the LGBTQ community on a very little level. And then it was London. It was the Jaipur Gay Parade, which happened in 2016 for the first time, where I was a part of with all the other LGBTQ community members. But what I saw there was, which was like a very hatred coming out from the society, that if we touch you, we as in the other sense, we touch you, it is very, very communicable disease. So everybody knows that, okay, it's not a mental disease. It cannot be tortured and cannot be cured. It is something which is innate. It is something which doesn't have to do with religion. It is something which doesn't have to do with caste, or let's per se we say that, oh, British community was the one which got us into all these things. But if we read into our, the textbooks and the shastras, we get to know that yes, Khajuraho temple also has such kind of images where probably they have necromancy going on, or sexual poses going on with homosexuals or with animals as well. So it's in our culture from ages beyond, but the only thing is we really don't need to think upon it. We don't ponder upon it. The only reason is we don't want to teach people what is taboo topic. And then we don't want people to know, oh my God, that's something shameful. Because today, if we talk about sex in a society, it is really a topic which you cannot discuss in kiddie parties, which you cannot discuss openly standing in a forum and having a chit chat over coffee. If you even, for example, let alone the word sex, you cannot even say bras and panties, the words which are really common as a figure of just a garment what you're wearing. You're allowed to say all other garments, but not that. Why? Because they're inner garments, and you cannot speak that. You cannot speak tampons. You cannot speak condoms. So these little words, which are really essential for our day-to-day lives, I would say, even these words are not given that much priority and that much importance that people can speak up. That means we are creating a kind of community in the modern 21st century where people cannot be themselves, where they have to hide their inner tastes, and probably they cannot speak up for what they need. So if we are stopping them for little things, we are stopping them for bigger things as well. At the same time, when we are not giving them little platforms, but I'm not saying going to talk about only the negativities, only the negative sides of it. Yes, there are positive. Yes, there are people who are teaching their kids about using all these things, telling them and giving them probably sex education as well at the same time. I have known quite a few people who are giving their kids sex knowledge about, and they not only live in India but abroad as well. So the basic thing is the one and the only thing which ultimately comes out to our end is that education, which is very, very important, not only in the term of sex, but also in the term of LGBTQI++. When I did my graduation, master's in English literature, and I had chosen the subject as gender studies as my master's subject, which a dissertation topic should be. So when I was choosing it in India, I couldn't get a college or a university which provides us this thing. It was probably one of the universities which was in Bombay or Pune somewhere. And I was really shocked to see that if I wanted to do such a topic, there's no university in India which provides me such an opportunity. So fortunately, I would say that I had to spread up my wings and go abroad and study upon these topics where people really talk about these topics on a very regular, normal layman basis. But we have made it a taboo. We are the ones who have made it a kind of a objectionable cause that, oh, we cannot discuss these things just because it is something which is trying to create a havoc in society. We are the ones who are creating it. It is all in our mindsets. We cannot tell somebody about it unless we ourselves are clear about it. Why, when we're walking about the streets and all, people look at us dressed strangely according to them, doing loud makeup or not doing makeup, wearing heels, whatever. So if a girl wears jeans and bottoms and tops, that is allowed. Guy does the same thing as the other way around, then that is not allowed. So that is very objectionable thing, which is really visible in our Indian mindset. That is allowed, but this is not allowed. Why? Why? Why being very pseudo masochists and very pseudo secularist in all these things? Because we are the ones who are thinking in a very negative term and are giving the liberties and acceptance to only those things which we accept to be acceptable. For example, looking into our Shastras, the Hindu mythology, we have always seen men wearing saris. We have seen Lord changing their avatars and coming as a female. Let it be Lord Shiva, let it be Lord Vishnu, or it's Arjun. Everybody has taken an avatar and worn saris. Why? Just because they had to save somebody, save a life, or do whatever. But we rebel them and then there. But now, if we have to look into the other perspective of them, that okay, Lord Ram was a very, Maryada Purushottam kind of a human being. Lord Krishna was very kingly. He wears anklets. He wears every other thing which we can see today. But then, I'm a Krishna devotee. But if you ask me, I can take Krishna as a gay lord. Why? Because he dresses very ostentatiously. But if we say it on a very big portal, it can be objectionable to the Hindu society. But it is just my freedom of thought which I'm giving. So it should be acceptable as well. When we say that there are rights to do this, rights to do that, but since we are just saying it, not given the rights as an actually to, rationalize them, and basically we're marginalizing what our thoughts are, then we are creating subsidizing thoughts in our own mindsets. Why we have to go abroad to other countries to get acceptance? Why we have to look into a society, a group of people who are understanding us? Why we have to sit for a coffee talk with those people who can understand English, who are educated, or who really have a wide variety of thinking? But then on the other hand, when we are sitting with them, we are saying that no, we are not going to talk about shit. And then we say, oh, did you look what he said? Did you look what he did? There is a very integral part of our own community which is doing all those, I would say, shit. Why? Because we are the ones who are creating such a muck. It is a problem not only in the community of the heterosexuals, but of homosexuals as well. We say that, oh, look at that guy, he's quite feminine. Look at that guy, he's quite hairy. Look at that guy, he's wearing a loud makeup. So we inside the community itself do all kind of things which are not acceptable and not gender biased. But in the society, if there are little things which are not correct, then we have to correct them at our own basic gender level. And if we do not correct them on our own basic general level, then the problem will really, really increase. You know, the only problem which comes to our mindset is that why all these things are happening, because we are letting things to happen. And if we stop and if we do not let things to happen properly, then probably there would be a bigger change. As I already mentioned, that we have to bring people to a level, a platform where people are educated about it. So we have to get them educated. We have to get them at a level where they understand the kind of plight what we as an LGBT society, as we have a topic about, you know, the heading is that we are one amongst you. We are one, but we don't want acceptance. We do not want, do you guys need an acceptance from us? Okay, you're heterosexuals, you need to be getting accepted if you are coming and talking to me. No, we don't do that. So why it is the other way around? When the tables are turned towards you, probably these things will be understandable, because we don't give you, okay, the right, okay, you have to become acceptable, then only we are going to give you the rights to do things. You don't have to fight for that. Why I'm doing you and we kind of thing? Because the heading talks about we are one amongst you. It is we who are creating the divergence boundaries. If we are the ones who are the gender boundaries, hats off to Ranveer Singh that he is doing all such kind of activities which are really 2 minutes. Sorry, my dog is really disturbing me. I'll just keep him out. 2 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
So guys, those of you who are there with us, you can also post your questions in the chat window, because I see a lot of people. I think there is one question which has come up in the chat window. So any of you, meanwhile, while the session is on, if you want to post something, put it in the chat window and we'll take it up. Yeah, Karan, hope things are fine.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was continuing about it. So what we people have decided upon these gender heteronormativity which is going on in the society is that we people are the ones who are not asking you for the liberty rights. Let it be any right which is inclusive of gender, which is inclusive of all these kind of things. Why? Because we are being ourselves. Let we be ourselves and let you be yourselves. Why? Because if we are not asking you for, like, okay, give us this right, why we have to fight for the rights, why section 377 has to be done, why people have to stand for always for the LGBTQ parades going on, the only reason for that is that we need to show that yes, we are a part of society and we need an acceptance as well. But again, on the other hand, we basically do not require acceptance. Why we have to do such kind of things is that we have to show that yes, it's the real worth of it, that yes, you will basically require these people. And trust me with this thing, like the community, the people are really good at heart. It and the problem which basically is mentioned, that oh, it is communicable, no it is not, it is transferable, no it is not. It is very, very known, everybody is studied, everybody is educated, everybody knows about it, but the only thing which comes into our mindsets is that just since ages we have heard etc about it, and we are not going to, because probably we are the ones who are having blinders like horses in front of our eyes, that we do not see left and right, we just see what is being taught to us according to our religion, right? As Bible also says that you should not sleep with a man as you should sleep with a woman. In Islam also it mentions in Al Surah that there will be a division when the earth will be discriminated and broken down into parts of pieces, and all the Hijrah community will be going down and dying deep below. Same is the culture with, same is in Hinduism as well. They say that all the people who are doing unnatural things, they are abominable. So we are totally outcasted in our own religion. But at the same time, we are respecting Ranallah. We are respecting all those Shikandinis who have taken part and taken birth in the culture. Shikandini, those of you who don't know, and Ranallah, those of you who don't know, are the characters from Mahabharata itself who were the transgenders and who have taken birth, and they were the pioneers in killing Dhritarashtra and Bhishma Pitama, who were invincible. Nobody could kill them, and they were the ones who took birth and killed them up. Dude, we respect them. We pray them. But now, when you're talking about other gender sensitivity things, like, no, 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 again, blinders come into our eyes. Why such kind of duplicities? Another point which is also important to know, for example, in the Islamic culture, because my dissertation was basically based upon LGBTQ in India, abroad, and Islamic culture. So I've read about Islamic culture a lot about, and they discuss about Khwaja Sirs. Khwaja Sirs are those singers, they are transgenders, and they go in front of Khwaja Ji in the mosque and they sing in Pakistan. But at the same time, they do not allow Muslims, the Muslim culture doesn't never allow homosexuality to be practiced on a greater level. So at one side, you are saying Khwaja Sirs are whatever to God, and on the other hand, you are saying no to them, banishing them. So isn't it a duplicity in itself? Isn't it something which you are showing something and asking something and having some other beliefs in your mindset? So the only thing is you have to change your mindset. We do not ask or beseech or cry for acceptance. We do not like probably go and have like kind of meetings like, yes, we need acceptance, we need whatever. You know what is going on with Sushant these days. It's bloody one death, and it's been ages that has been elongated to. All the news channels are talking about it. If one little case which is very very clear, cannot CBI probe in and do a justice in quickly? No, but they are taking time. That is what Indian governance, as Akai madam already mentioned about it, that it is all sold. Everything has been sold. Even if you want to do a little thing, give some money on the top of the table and it is being sorted. So things happen this way in a country which is India. Not only India, I would say it might happen abroad as well, but the percentage is really high in here, where a lot of people are educated, but the governance never work when they are not educated. We are the ones who are going to, if somebody who is transgender, if somebody who is belonging from the community itself gets an open chance and open opportunity to represent himself or herself in front of people, I think the only other problem which comes is the family acceptances, which is quite important. Like I have another talk which is lined up in Dubai, which is tomorrow itself, where I'm talking with my brother, and the topic talks about that. Yes, there is acceptance. That people are there who have given them acceptances, like family members, and that is the kind of thing which will show and which will give other people the liberty of thought that look, this has also happened. Why we are always talking about negativities is why, because the negativities are more than being positive sides in our own country. The only problem which comes to our mindset towards the end when we filter everything is that acceptances from the family itself. Once your family has accepted, I don't think there will be any other problem coming out to society at a very grand level. Coming out of closet is not a problem if your family accepts you. Coming out of a closet is not a problem when your close friends, accept you. So acceptance only from the near and dear ones is needed, not from the society as a whole, because basically they are going to talk about it, they are going to mock about it. And a community which is transgender, where people really kind of feel scared when they go next to them. Why? Because oh, might be they really pull up their clothes and start dancing naked in front of you, or probably give you curses or whatever. It's not every time. You are the one who are forcing them to do that. You are the one who are asking them to do that because you have given hatred to them, and the hatred is coming back. It's all karma. You give it and it's come back to you. So when this karma is acting each and every place, then why are we being shocked when They are fighting with us. Every time when it's a birth in the family, or it's a happiness in the family, or it's a wedding in the family, they come and they bless you. Then you are ready to take their blessings. Otherwise, you're like being scared. No, 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 no. We're not going to see them. Why? Because they are kind of, kind of a taboo people. So why that thing? Don't you think that we human beings have like split personality disorder? Or rather, I would say that, like as Robert Frost also mentioned in his poetry, that we prepare faces to meet the faces that we meet. We are already preparing faces, different kind of faces. Like Shakespeare also says, we all play our roles and then go away. So we are playing our roles. In front of you, I'm different. In front of him, I'm very different. So why such kind of duplicity in our own behaviors? And when you have duplicity in your own behaviors, you basically are your not self. You are being not an asset to the society at any which way, and you're causing damage to your own spirituality as well. Because if you talk about the spiritual level, if you are not cleansed from inside, I'm really sure that nothing can really happen for a very good level. So I'll conclude by saying that the only matter is spreading love and not hatred. I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know you. But can we not just go and just pass a little smile and be acceptable? If you see somebody is wearing a sari in the street, and just pass a smile to that person, and everything is done. Rather than giving him an eye. Yesterday itself, I was walking the street and somebody said, "Oh, that's Karan Vega. I know that guy." Okay, you know me, but is that a way to greet somebody by pointing it out? No, the other girl standing with him were like, "Shut up, what are you doing?" So at least let us. I was comfortable because I've seen things a lot. So I was quite a few, like quite a bit comfortable, because otherwise, if somebody else would have been at my place who was not that open loud about it, he probably would have felt ashamed about being himself. So why are you asking? Why are you forcing people to do suicide? If they write a letter and slide, then like societal note, who is going to help them out? Nothing. So at least pass a smile, spread love, love your, as you say, love thy neighbor as love yourself. So do it, accept it, and I trust me with all these things. All the holy scriptures talk about these things in a very beautiful way. Love human being, spread happiness. That is the crux of life. If you cannot do that, all the preachings, all the love matters, all your relationships, everything is ruined, everything is being disastrous. And if you cannot do all these things in one particular life, which is this human form which you have got, trust me with this thing, you have a very, because karma is really striking hard thanks to coronavirus. The pandemic is very visible to everybody. It has ruined everybody's life, the billions of people in the whole universe, everybody starting from the top to bottom, whether he's President Obama or Narendra Modi for that sake, and a beggar on the street, everybody is equally hit. Everybody has their own share, and that is the karma. If you are still not awakening, it's high time. It's really high time. That's it.
Thank you so much, Karan. I think it was very genuine and it was from your heart. I could see there was nothing much prepared, even though, and I think that is what makes it different, because when you speak from your heart, the words are really very what do I say? They're very strong and they make a very big impact, I think. And thank you so much for talking to us in detail and sharing your thoughts, and probably giving us a very closer look to your journey so far. And could you also talk something about the venture that you are into, and how are you, trying to contribute to the society now with whatever venture you are associated with? Some details about that.
So basically, I'm being a fashion designer. I wanted to do a gender fluid fashion industry announce, which is my next collection, which is coming up, is a gender fluid collection, and it is a shirt basically, which is the collection is called as Garam Masala, and everything is filled in it. All the colors are there. Everything is there. A man, and in the photo shoot, you will see that a boy is wearing, a girl is wearing, and a gay guy is also wearing the same shirt. So At the end of the day, everybody is equal. Everybody is looking similar. You cannot really discriminate between all these people. So my brand is all about inclusivity. It's all about wearing whites, which I'm really fond of. So my collection has whites in it. Why? Because people have this kind of a tendency that okay, white is a color which is only for death. Dude, this is not relating to death. It is a color of peace. And of course, I can really relate it with Christianity because it's a wedding dress. So why people are giving it a bad name? I don't know for God knows what reason. People wear white on deaths because it's peace. So one of the other color concept which I wear is like white to people, that people should know about it. And yes, people have started accepting it as well. But there are some people who really have a kind of backlash about it, that they really don't want to think more about it. That's why they don't want to think about it. That's it. They don't want to change. You can't change them. And then talking about the gender inclusivity of LGBT people on my runways as well. I've always fought for and got, probably once it was one of my shows in Hyderabad, and my collection was known as Ardhanareshwar, where the half male and the half female concept of Lord Shiva is there. So when I was going to the show organizer messaged me and called me up when I was in the transition of flights, that would you be there's a one little error in our show, that would you be happy if you get transgender models, because they are also in our show and nobody is taking them. And I was like, happy? I would be more than happy rather. Why? Because my not only my collection suits the word Ardhanareshwar, but of course it's good to have them. They're also male or female, right? So I had them, I took them, and trust me, after that, all the other designers who were in the line of the show, they took them. Oh, Karan, like we also need those models. I said, go for that. So you have probably give a push to it, and then it really comes in the front. So there should be a pushing spirit behind, who does a little justice to a handful few, and then the other handful few are done justice by this handful few, and then this handful few does a justice to the other handful few. So these fews make a society in bunch. So when you help me, I help you. You asked me, Karan, can you be available for the talk? Yes, I will be. And if sometime in near future I would like, hello Helen, I would need your or Shilpi, I need your help a little bit. So would you be available? Yes, you will be trying your level best to try and help me out. Why? Because you know me, and once I was available for your help as well. So it is this way the society works. And if you have this kind of a mindset, probably I think that society will really, there's no other need for an outsider to come in. There's no need of a foreign body to come and help us. We ourselves can regenerate, create a society which can probably bring about a change. A tremendous change doesn't need, we never needed somebody outsider, as ma'am also mentioned, Nelson Mandela. But the apartheid is still on. Mahatma Gandhi, but apartheid is still on. Ahimsa, but ahimsa and hinsa is still on. So things are still on. There are few people who are working on their lineage. There are people who are really working hard to survive for all these things. But yes, there's somebody who has started it, and there's somebody who's going to end it up as well. Everything has a start, everything has an end. But it's really wonderful thing if we all take pleasure and gains in helping each other, being creating a community which is together as one. I'm not getting, it's not always about earning. It's not about earning money. It's all about earning love, respect, and a little happiness and smile from others' face. If you can earn this much, probably God will smile back at you. And when God smiles back at you, the things start happening very perfect. And what else would you require, right?
Thank you, Karan. I think it's a wonderful idea to have a thought from you on those lines, because see, a lot of youngsters right now are puzzled, not only about this particular community, but probably about their own personalities, to come out and speak, not only to the families, friends, but the whole society at large. So the journey which you have undertaken, probably Akai has also undertaken, shows us a lot that How can you move against all the odds when you have confidence in yourself? If you believe, if you yourself believe that yes, I can do it, I will be able to, manage things better with the help of my surrounding. So first you have to have that confidence in yourself, and I think then the world will definitely, set the order for you, I think.
See,
And
Mahatma Gandhi ji was somebody, a guy wearing just white dhoti and white chador and having one staff in his hand and walking around the whole universe. And now what? He's on a currency notes. So you just need one little courage from inside, and boom, the world is yours. And if I was probably not comfortable in my own skin, I would say I would not have been able to do whatever I'm doing today.
wonderful. Good, Karan. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we had a detailed talk, and we intend to finish this in 1 hour. But then again, we have exceeded some time. So what I'll do is I'll try to be very precise. I will just conclude my talk with a simple question. What does this particular community of our friends of LGBTQ community, what do they want? They don't want our money. They don't want our praises. They don't want wealth. They don't want well-being from us. They just want acceptance from us. They just want the inclusion from us. The way we are given this physical body is the same way they are also given the physical being in this earth. So what is the point in not accepting them in the society? And when people want to be what they are supposed to be from within, who are you to stop them from what they are? We don't have that right. So it's just one question with which I will conclude my talk is, what is the point in not accepting people who want to be themselves? So I think with this we will conclude this talk. And now, Karan, since Akai is not with us, I don't know whether you will be able to answer many questions because there are many. So what I am going to do is I will be summing them all up, and so it will be easier for you to take them. So probably 2 3 questions which are closer to the topic of this webinar, I will put it up to you. And if you wish to answer, please do answer. If you do not have the answer, please be modest enough to not reply. It's
I
completely
love
fine.
to answer all the
Yeah.
questions.
So thank you. So I will put the first question, Karan. So very first question is, one of the colleague is asking, sir, you would have faced a lot of criticism along the way. How did you handle it?
Criticism is the key to success, I would say. Because if I was probably not criticized at a very particular level, if I was not criticized for being whatever I am, then probably I would not have been myself today. So yes, people have said that, oh, you look like Rekha. That is a criticism. If that's a criticism for me, I take it. I take it. I love to take it. So it is all in your minds, darling. It's all in your minds. If you take it as a criticism, you bow down, and if you do not, go ahead. Go ahead, fight for it. Do justice to yourself. Be yourself, basically. And if you're being yourself, you're not creating a face. Then probably you are being yourself at a very, very loud level. You'll win. Don't take it as a criticism. Take it as a stepping stone. Like what do they say that people were throwing stones at me and I made a house out of that. Yeah. So pick up those stones, make a house out of that, and start living in that. Probably you will have a stone house.
Great, great, Karan. Thanks for that reply. So the next question goes, how far is social representation and opportunities restricted for a member of LGBTQ community? The question, you want me to repeat?
No, no, I'm good.
Okay.
So I think the representation in like let's say Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, or at a very greater level is just because they are sometimes uneducated. If I'm only talking about the transgender community, but now they are being very educated as well because I have done a few talks. You might see them on my Instagram. Recently, I did with 2 transgenders from Pune. So they are working at a very good level in governance as well as from they both are engineers basically. So very stalwart ladies and doing very good to society. So the only thing is, since they were uneducated earlier, but now they are not. So they are getting their representation in society. But if you are asking me about the facing of gender biasness and all, trust me, people are really understanding and accepting these days, because I'm teaching in a school as well, and I'm being gay, whatever I want to wear, whatever I want to dress up, wear my saris, or not saris though, but dupattas, I would say, and wearing my heels or jewelry, I'm allowed to do so. And that is an open acceptance in a society like India, in a school which is located in Dosa. So people accepting you for being whatever you are in a city outside on the at the outskirts of Jaipur. So it's kind of like society is changing, and society is changing for good. So if society is changing for good, trust me, we should appreciate it.
Wonderful. Next question is Karan. When heterom heteronormative is not questioned, then why is homosexuality questioned?
You tell me. So because when we are not, that is what I was saying, right, Alan, that when heteronormativity is not at all questioned, that, oh, are you straight? Why are you so straight? Why do you marry a girl? Oh my God, that's something very unhygienic to have sex with a girl. No, you can't do it. They're like, dude, when we don't question you, then why do you question us? That, how do you guys do sex? So what kind of question is that? So when we do not poke our noses, see, it's a very new normal now, that don't poke your nose into my business. Keep your nose into your mask, right? So I think people should really understand that, keep your noses into your mask. That will really keep you safe from COVID virus as well. So yes, this is a wonderful question, that when we do not question heteronormativity, then homosexuality should not be questioned as well. So wonderful question, whosoever has asked it.
There is one question from an architecture a student of an architectural college. So there are two parts to this question. The first is what is the change you need in present construction and amenities provided so that the design is universal, that is, could be used by all? For example, toilet segregation like male or female. And the second part of it is how can architecture help in making transgenders and LGBT community people more involved in the society?
So if you're talking about the different kind of restrooms, then basically you are the ones who are creating divisions yourself in the mindset. Why do we need different kind of washrooms? If I'm comfortable going to a ladies' washroom, I should be comfortable in like for example, if you go abroad, I go to the ladies' washroom and girls are like, hey, hi, cutie, what's up? So this happens, but this will not happen in India. And India will be like, oh my god. So this kind of an experience when happens in India, it's like okay. And when you go to a male's washroom, and the boys will start zipping up their pants, like as if we are really getting inside their pants. So this is what is in mindsets. We don't want it to be changed. For example, so for example, if we do not want these kind of different things of architectural things to happen, that's, I think that's really fine. I can, if okay, if I'm dressed as a woman, probably, if you say so, then I can go in a women's washroom. And if I'm dressed as a man, then I can go in a man's washroom, because gays do not have GAY written on here. Transgenders might be looking different. Lesbians might not be looking like a man or whatever. You cannot differentiate between a gay or a lesbian because they're properly dressed. Once I dress this way, you say, oh, that's something different. Otherwise, if I dress the other way, you can even not just, just say. So basically, there's only in the mindsets. If we want to create segregations, go on, keep on doing segregations. Then you are the ones who are at bereft then. And I won't suggest any of the architect to please come in between and create some kind of different ideas and different urinals for LGBTQs as well.
You don't want to basically go into further segregation of things.
No, we already segregated a lot. Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai is already done. Why getting into more intricacies, na?
Wonderful, wonderful, positive outlook, positive perspective to look at it. The next question is why do people, especially religious people, consider this a taboo? So this means obviously the LGBTQ.
Because religious people are too religious that they will take a shower if they go to toilet even. They won't touch the altar if they are not clean. They see God as somebody whom they can fear of. They fear from God. Okay, I do fear from God as well. But that doesn't mean I cannot love. For example, I'll give you a very wonderful example of it. According to Mahabharata, according to Bhagavad Gita, you are this body, you are not a soul. So when your master, when your spiritual master accepts you, they accept you for being whatever you are. They only have the to bring a change in your soul and not in your body. They know my Gurudev knows me my this way. Like, okay, he knows me that I'm gay. But he's not going to bring about a change, Karan, change your sexuality. No. He's there to increase my spiritual level. He's there to increase me spiritually and take me closer to God. And then that is a difference. Then that is a service between me and my God. Why the religious monks have to come in between and say, no, you're not doing it right. Who are you? Have your own happy life. You are closer to God. Have you received all kind of tenacity? Have you received whatever you wanted to receive from God? If not, then stop poking into my business. I know religious people have different kind of agendas behind. They kind of have whatever thoughts going on behind their mind. But yes, there are many homosexual spiritual leaders as well, probably whom we know. And if we don't know, I don't want to make them out as well, because there are many. So let's not discuss about them because they are having their own spiritual level, and we respect them for whatever they are. But they should also not poke their noses into others' business. Yes.
Right. And probably the last question, Karan. So this is, what can be done to reduce the number of homophobic people in our country?
Education only. Be educated. Teach your kids, this little size kid roaming around in your home in a nappy, that okay, learn to love. If they see somebody, don't make them laugh at them. Make them understand. Even if it's a kid, even if he hasn't started going to school, start spreading love. Start, like, probably when there's a gay movie going on or whatever, when he grows up, take it as a normal thing. Don't close your eyes. If you close them at the very beginning, they'll understand that, oh, that is something taboo. And we will see them in the corners. Then if they see something as a latent desire, then that would be something which is coming from a negative point of view. If the parents have already shown them, oh, that's fine, that's fine. So basically, if you see in the Western culture, they see the porn things going on the streets as well. So they are like really fine with it. They do not feel like, oh, wow, what's going on? But in India, if you show it to a little guy, you're like, oh my God. So that kind of a expression, that kind of a fear which comes inside a little child's mind is just because we have created it. So educate.
I think that's the biggest weapon also against all the evils, I think, which are going on in society, education. So, Karan, thank you so much. Questions are over, and thank you for taking them all bang on. And I hope people will be able to find your answers really helpful. Thank you so much. And what I feel is we as a society have come a long way, and we have grown and evolved intellectually. 20 years ago, the phrase sex itself was a taboo. But today we are deliberating upon various aspects of gender diversity, sexual minorities, and sexual social inclusion. So I feel that no matter how inclusive we are working towards being, we can always do more. We can always do better. And together we hope that best is only yet to come. So with this, now we have come towards the end of this webinar. I feel that if the thoughts exchanged today makes a difference in any one person's life or thought process, then the purpose of this webinar seems to somewhere fit in. Let me take this opportunity to sincerely thank Akai first of all for allowing her time, and more than that, in this personal tragedy, she was able to spare some time with us. So I thank you sincerely, Akai, for joining us. And thank you so much, Karan, for sharing your thoughts, joining today live with us, and also taking all the questions, and maybe provoking our thought process to somewhere think beyond what is natural and normal according to us, right? And basically trying to test the test the horizons of our mind. So let us see what thought process goes beyond. And definitely India needs more people like you, like Akai, like Karan, to have good success stories in the future. And wishing you more power, good luck for all the endeavors that you undertake, and all the best to all your endeavors. I thank you, Karan, once again for your time with us. And I thank you, all of us who have joined us live for this webinar. I think there is Okay. So Karan, thank you, Karan, for this beautiful talk. This is from one of our guests who has joined. Then next is was a wonderful session to listen to beautiful human beings like Akai and Karan. So Karan, straight away thanks comes from the participants. I am just letting you know.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Alan, for choosing me for giving such a talk. And I would have really appreciated if the coronavirus was not there and we would have done it in a very personal, in a very open theater. I would have really loved to be there as well. And I'm ready for if you might have something in future. I'm always ready for that as well. And thank you for all the online people who are there. I don't know how many are there. I can't see because I'm not wearing glasses as such. So thank you so much for joining and appreciating whatever I've said. And I hope that you bring about a change in society by a little thought and by a little smile on your face. If you sometimes, any other day, see an LGBTQ person, just give them a big hug and smile and say, "We love you." It'll make the difference. It'll make the difference.
So Karan, how I see to it is this is just a beginning probably. We have miles to go, and there will be various other platforms where we will collaborate definitely. And I look forward to it. And thank you once again, all of you who have joined this meeting, and those are seeing us live on Facebook. So towards the end, I would request some of you if you can turn on your cameras. We can have a group picture, and then probably we can just sign off. Let me just take a screenshot. So people who can turn on their cameras, please do so. Okay, I can see Ashni, I can see Albert. Okay, let me just wonderful. Great. So thank you so much guys for joining. So signing off and have a very good evening. Bye bye. Thank you, Karan. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Bye.